Okay, so the eSIM market is pretty crowded these days. There are so many players now that it's becoming harder and harder to find the right provider, especially when the prices are so similar. So how do you choose? Well, you can't just go by price. You've got to look at what you're actually getting for your money. Take FlexiRoam. I set out to review them for this video and discovered something very interesting. They typically cost the same as providers like Airalo, but they actually give you a lot more value. Not only are they tapped into more networks, which means better coverage and speeds, but they've also got a bunch of extra perks, like the ability to roll over data or share it through their app. And if you're someone who's constantly traveling and tired of having to reinstall a new eSIM every time, the cool thing about FlexiRoam is that most of their plans work with the same eSIM, so no more messing around with new ones. So today we're diving into FlexiRoam. We'll test their speeds and coverage, look at their features, and compare them to Airalo and Holafly. If we think about eSIMs as having a hierarchy of needs, at the base we have the essentials, speed and coverage. Yes, FlexiRoam has a lot of great perks, but if the eSIM we buy is slow or won't connect, then it's useless. So before you even think about the price or the features, check how many networks the eSIM connects to. Some, like traditional SIM cards, are tied to just one. Take this Spanish eSIM from Airalo. This only gives you access to one network. But what are you supposed to do if the area you're going to has poor coverage? Well, nothing. And unless you can find Wi-Fi, you're basically screwed. So the more networks an eSIM has access to, the better the connection, because it will automatically switch to the strongest signal. And this is where FlexiRoam stands out, because they're connected to over 500 across 200 countries. For example, in Spain, they actually have 4 available. And with their prices being relatively similar to Airalo, ignoring any extra perks, if you're traveling to Spain, FlexiRoam would be the better choice purely for coverage. This number, 520, should just give you confidence that wherever you are, you're going to get reliable speeds and coverage. And while it's impossible for me to test this in all 200 countries, I did do some here in the UK. Okay, as you can see, I'm in a field and it's a bit windy, so I apologize, but with my normal carrier O2, I usually don't get very good signal here. In some cases, I get none at all. Unfortunately, in the UK, FlexiRoam also uses O2, except that's not their only network and they have access to 3 more. And I'm actually getting ridiculously fast speeds, like it's going up to 400 megabits per second, which for a remote location like this one is the fastest I've ever recorded using an eSIM. Like I could download a full TV series right here in a field. I've been watching Sneaky Pete, and now we're gonna try and download season 3. Okay, I got 1 episode in a couple of seconds. I can now watch Sneaky Pete in a field. Fantastic. Now, more urban built-up areas, including where I live, also had similar results. Inside my house, it got all the way up to 220, which is again the fastest I've ever recorded using an eSIM at home. So FlexiRoam speeds and coverage have really impressed me. Clearly having access to a large number of networks makes a big difference, but I've been testing their fixed data plan. Now it's time to try one of their unlimited eSIMs. Now, unlimited sounds great, right? You can use as much as you want for a set price and you don't have to worry about it running out. But the reality is that unlimited data doesn't mean unlimited speeds. And in most cases, you're going to run into a fair usage policy and be throttled. And what's annoying is that most providers don't specify how much you can use before this will happen. But what I like about FlexiRoam is that they're transparent and say that you have 3 gigabytes before a fair usage policy may apply. At least that's what it says. But that's not what I experienced. I literally couldn't get it to throttle. I got to 3 gigabytes and the speeds were still outrageously fast. I then got to 6 and still nothing. And I had to take it all the way to almost 10 gigabytes before the speed slowed. I also tested this the following day when the speeds reset. And again, I was able to push it to almost 10 gigabytes. And I'll talk about costs and comparison to Holafly shortly, but when I tested their UK unlimited eSIM, it throttled at less than 5. And before that even happened, in this room, the same room that I tested FlexiRoam, the Holafly eSIM was downloading speeds of as little as 8 megabits per second. So that's like me trying to race a Ferrari on a tricycle. There's literally no comparison. Clearly FlexiRoam is the winner. They're 30 times faster, gave me double the data before I was throttled, and they have 4 networks instead of 3. And they're basically the same price as Holafly, unless you use Monito's discount code Monito 15. And if you want to support myself and the channel while getting a FlexiRoam eSIM, then please use the affiliate link in the description box below. Throughout testing, I purchased 3 different UK eSIMs, but only went through the activation process once, and that's thanks to FlexiRoam's one eSIM to rule them all feature. So the gist is that most of their plans work with the same eSIM, which means if you buy more than one, you don't have to waste any extra time installing them. Instead, you just tap activate inside the app or use their Flexi Start feature and schedule a date for when you want to go live. Their website does say that in some cases you may need to use a different eSIM, but the app will let you know if this is necessary, and it'll appear here within My SIMs. Also, when I first saw this tab, I was a bit confused because I didn't understand the difference between My SIMs and My Plans, but obviously this is where your eSIMs are located, which will likely be just one, and this is where you can find your plans and how much data they have left. And when I purchased the unlimited eSIM, I still didn't need a new one, and FlexiRoam just automatically stopped using the data that I had left on this fixed plan and started using the unlimited one. So it's great that we don't have to manually install a new one every time. And if you're using a provider like Airalo, unless you're going to top up, you do have to go through the installation process every time you buy a new one. There are also other reasons to consider FlexiRoam, such as FlexiShare, FlexiRoll, and FlexiStart. I've already touched on FlexiStart, but this is where you can schedule an eSIM to activate at a later date. And this is useful because you can go through the installation process well in advance of your trip and then conveniently set your plan to begin on the day you arrive. FlexiRoll is not a type of pastry, but a useful feature for those that don't use all of their data. So if you have any left when a plan expires, you lose it, which is annoying because it's basically like throwing money away. But with their global data plans, any that you have remaining can be rolled over to a new plan. So all you have to do is buy yourself a new one, and FlexiRoll will automatically transfer the data across on expiry. FlexiShare, another useful feature, is where you can give data to other FlexiRoam users through the app. Obviously, this isn't available with unlimited plans, although you could still share data with those via hotspot or tethering. But let's say your friend or family is running low on data. You could easily send them some of yours directly through the app. And it's pretty straightforward. You choose the plan you want to send from, click this icon, select how much data, which is in multiples of 100, enter their ID or scan the QR code, which can be found in the account section, and once confirmed, the transfer is immediate. Now, the only thing to remember here is that the person you send data to does need to have an eSIM with the same plan. And I could see how this could be useful, especially for a family. Let's say you have kids and they're running low on data. Well, instead of buying new plans, you can just share yours directly with them. Now, earlier I showed you how my FlexiRoam eSIM was using data from my unlimited plan and not my fixed plan. Well, that's because of a feature called FlexiStack, which automatically chooses the best plan for your usage. So for example, you could have multiple active plans, and this will make sure to use the one that will expire first, so you don't lose out on any unused data. Basically, all of these features have one thing in common. They're designed to help you get the most out of every plan and not waste any data. And considering all of these features, and the great network coverage and ridiculous speeds, you'd probably expect FlexiRoam to be expensive, but what surprised me the most is that they're still very competitive, even compared to providers like Holafly or even Airalo, who are renowned for being cheap. Starting in Asia, FlexiRoam offers plans ranging from 1 to 100 gigabytes for $5 to $185. Their unlimited plans are also cheaper than Holafly. For example, this 10-day plan is $37, while Holafly is $39.90. In Europe, FlexiRoam and Airalo are basically the same in terms of pricing, so you'd want to consider the coverage or the networks available when making your choice. And if you're after unlimited, FlexiRoam are again cheaper. For example, this 10-day eSIM costs $34, while Holafly charge $36.90. And that's also the case in North America. Holafly again are more expensive, and Airalo and FlexiRoam are relatively similar. When it comes to global plans, FlexiRoam is the clear winner. They offer plans with far more data and go all the way up to 70 gigabytes. In comparison, Airalo maxes out at 20 for $69. And this particular plan is exactly the same as this one from FlexiRoam. And that's quite common when comparing the two providers. They are very similar for pricing, except FlexiRoam has much larger data plans. Holafly's global plans start at 7 days and go up to 30, but you can't really compare them with FlexiRoam because Flexi don't have an unlimited global eSIM. But these plans that they do have do last longer than 30 days, which is probably better for those traveling around the world because you'd likely need more days. If you want access to calls and texts with FlexiRoam, you just add an additional plan, and these are cheaper than Airalo's Discover Plus plans, but those do include data. Holafly doesn't have calls and texts, so we have nothing to compare. And that's the same for in-flight data plans, which only FlexiRoam offer. And these could be useful. Personally, I wouldn't bother, but if you want data while you're in the air, then just make sure to check the coverage section, as these only work on certain aircrafts. It's pretty clear to me that FlexiRoam have made a decision to compete with both of these providers on price, but they haven't really undercut Airalo like they have with Holafly. I guess they're already so competitive that the margins are very tight, and instead of trying to always be cheaper, they're just providing more value. But if you do want to beat Airalo on price, just make sure to use the code Monito15 for 15% off. And when it comes to weighing up the pros and the cons, it was difficult to find anything wrong with FlexiRoam. They're price competitive, they have great coverage and ridiculous speeds and loads of benefits, and also an app that's really easy to use. Their customer service is available 24/7, although in my experience it was a little slow. It took 10 minutes to speak to someone via in-app chat, and as long as 32 minutes through WhatsApp. As I initially made contact though, I was warned that it was a busy period, so perhaps 10 minutes is on the slow side for them, and it was just bad timing from me. I also checked their Trustpilot to see if there were complaints or negative reviews about support, and it was actually quite positive, with some people praising how responsive it was. So after testing FlexiRoam in different locations, comparing their pricing, features, and coverage with other providers like Airalo and Holafly, I have to say, I'm impressed. FlexiRoam don't just offer some of the cheapest eSIMs, but they're focused on providing more value for money. But let's be honest, no provider is perfect, and for me, I did find that their support was a bit slow. But given the speeds I had and the data I got to use on their unlimited eSIM and all of their plans and competitive pricing, I'd say that they are a serious contender for the best eSIM provider. And if you do want to get yourself one and you want a little guidance with the installation, then check out this video where I'll guide you step by step through the process of installing and activating a data-only eSIM and an eSIM with voice and text. Hope you found the video useful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.